Hi folks, my name is Mr. Kuchak and I am your art teacher. Before we begin, let me go over our class rules. We have 3 rules at Elk Lake. Be ready, be responsible, be respectful. We are ready in the art room when we come in, sit in our assigned seats, and get quiet so that we can learn about art. We are responsible in the art room when we follow directions and take care of our supplies, and we clean up any of our messes. We are respectful when we use kind words like please and thank you, and when we value other students' artwork. Supplies you will need for today's lesson. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to. Hi folks, today we are going to begin our corner of the room drawing. So a corner of the room drawing is an illusion type drawing where we can add different things into our picture to kind of make an environment. What we're going to use is a technique called perspective. We haven't gotten into that yet. This is just kind of a soft introduction into it. The main things that I want you to really worry about are your corners, going to your corners, and making sure that your lines look nice and straight and even. So let me show you how to get started with this, and we're going to go through 4 different types of drawings, maybe a little bit more, just depends on what kind of time we have. So the first thing that I do is I take my square tracer and I put it in the center of my rectangular tracer in the middle of my rectangular paper. This is going to be the same for every single drawing. You trace around, and then, using your tracer, take your corners. So I find it easier to put my pencil on the corner and then I draw right to the corner. So I put my pencil right where I want it to start and I go right to the corner. Once again, pencil on the corner, go right to your corner, pencil, and we're going to have it go right onto our corner. There we go. So now that we have the corners on our corners, what happens, and I know it's kind of hard for you to see, so I'm going to try to find a Sharpie here that I can use. Pardon me for 1 second. There we go. So that you can actually see what I have drawn out. So right now, I have this. Now, everything else that I'm going to show you, I'm going to draw in Sharpie. What I would like you to do, though, is please draw in pencil so that you can erase if you need to, so that you can add things inside there. So what we have is this shape. And this shape, it kind of looks like it's a hallway going back, or it looks like you're flying over the top of a pyramid. It just depends on how you're looking at it. So what I want to do with this one is I just want to make it into a hallway then. So if I take my tracer and I put it near the bottom, I can take my Sharpie and I can draw a line in there, and then that gives me a floor. Now I have these walls, I have another floor. So down here on this floor, I'm going to do a wooden floor with this. So in the middle, I'm going to keep my tracer nice and straight. And then like a clock, I'm going to come over a little bit, and then I'm just going to move it out a tiny little bit. And then I'm going to come over a little bit, I'm going to move it out a little bit more. And then what I have to watch, though, is I'm pretty close to here. So I want to follow that in and slide in a little bit. And then I'm going to come in a little bit, slide in a little bit more. And then I'm just going to split that difference that's in between there. So then it looks like the floor kind of follows that whole pattern with this. So once again, if you go to your corner and you slide the tracer out a tiny little bit, and then you come over a little bit and slide it a little bit more, you'll start getting that kind of, we call that like a sweep to it. And then I'm just going to go back in the middle and I'll split the difference. Now I have my boards for my floor. So when I'm doing my floor, what I can do is I can actually make it look like wood by just dividing up this space. Just remember, you don't want them next to each other, the lines lining up, because you wouldn't really see that in a real wooden floor, because that would be a weak spot. If you wanted to do things like nails, you could just add a couple little dots there, or you can even do that after it's colored in and Sharpied. So once I add those in there, now I'm ready to start on the walls on the side. So with the walls on the side, and let me grab a different colored Sharpie so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take this tracer and I'm going to bring it over. So I'm blending it right up there with the edge, and I just slide it into the room a tiny little bit. And I'm going to draw a straight line. What that's going to give me is that's going to give me the front of a window. I go back to my corner. I slide my corner up the same exact way until I see that red, or see the bottom of that. Now I have the bottom of my window, and I go up to the top, and I slide that in until I hit that window. So now I have a window in there. So I can make things in there like, I don't know, maybe I'll do the sun, and I'll do maybe the moon. Maybe I'll do Saturn. Do a couple other little things inside there. So then I can have like outer space in that side. Over here, I want to make this look like if you were coming in. Actually, let's do the same thing. Let's make it look like another window. We'll do the other technique with another different one. So to just try that again, we come in, we slide over a little bit, we draw our line in there, and then we go back to the middle. We follow that curve or that angle, and we go right to the edge. Once again, go up to your corner, bring it down, go right up to the edge. Now, it does not have to be the same. So I could do something where, maybe I have some ground, maybe I have some starfish, and maybe on this side there's kelp, and there's other stuff kind of over here where it's going to be under the sea. I can even do things up on top here. So if I wanted to do like a window where you can see through up here, I could do my straight line, and then I just go back to my corner, I add that in, I come back to my corner, I add that in, and then I have another spot where I can add some more details. I could add things like, plants and more flooring back here, or pictures and windows, maybe even a clock. So there's so many details that you can add in, and this is just your first one. So this is what we would call just the hallway. Let me get set up and I'll show you the next one. Okay, with our next one, I'm going to do an endless hallway. So this is going to look like a hallway that just keeps going and going and going. So to start off, I'm going to take my tracer, I'm going to put it in the middle, and this time I'm just going to draw with Sharpie so that you can see the whole time what I'm doing. I forgot that the light was not the best in here, and it kind of washes out the picture. So now that I have my square with the square, I take the corners to my corners. So once again, put your pencil or Sharpie there, draw right to your corners, go from your corner to your corner, and I'm just going to keep turning this paper around until I get all my corners done. Corners to corners, corners to corners. Now we're going to use something called the top hat. So the top hat is a shape that looks like this. It looks just like a top hat. We're going to use that to make our endless hallway. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to draw my line. Once again, I'm using the straight edge to make sure that I have a nice, clean, kind of crisp type line in there so that it doesn't look like it's all squiggly and all over the place. That's not going to work too well here. So there's my first one. There's my first top hat. So then I go in again. Once again, I'm trying to keep that in there, and then I will do my next top hat, and then I'll connect that together. Then I'll do another top hat. So basically, you keep doing top hats until there's no more room to do another top hat. And I think I can get a couple more in here. What really starts looking nice is when you have, and there I wiggled that one. I should have used my tracer, see? Okay, let's clean that up. There we go, clean that up. And then we'll do another one here. And there we go. That's looking a lot better. And I'm going to do one more. That way I can see how far we can keep going and going and going. So this way it looks like you keep going down and down and down, or back as you're walking. One of the tricks here is to use maybe some tile. Tile is pretty much drawn the same way that we did the wood, it's just we spread it out a little bit more. So I'm going to put a line there, and then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go about halfway. And then I'm going to come back here and I'm just going to rotate this until I get about halfway. And that way I have my tiles. Now my first tiles are going to be the biggest tiles. Since they're kind of going off the paper, I'm just going to draw a straight line across. And then I'm going to come way back here and I'm going to draw another line there. That way it'll look like it's even bigger. And then eventually I'll keep taking this all the way back through every single floor so that it looks like it's tile, tile, tile. It just connects the entire drawing together. Now, I also want to make it look like you could turn and you could walk either way that way. So if you go back to the middle, remember last time we had it tall like this, almost like a door. Here we're going to switch it up. We're going to draw a line here. We're going to draw a line here. Once again, we come back in, draw our line, draw our line, and then I'm going to put a window here. And to do the window, like if I try to draw it this way, it's the same size. So if I turn my tracer this way, I can now have a window here and a window here. And I can do the same thing. So let me do my outer space, and then I can do under the sea in that one too. And that way I have my endless hallway going and going and going and going. The next one that I'm going to do is the jail cell. So you probably know what's coming up. We take our tracer, we put it in the middle, we trace around, and you guessed it, we take our corners to our corners. So I put my tracer there, I go to my corners, I put my tracer here, I go to my corners, I put my tracer here, I go to my corners, and I put my tracer here, and I go to my corners. Now with the jail cell, there's a few things you want to do. First of all, when you're doing the bars, you don't want the bars this close together where they're super teeny tiny, where you're going to have to draw 100 of them. Space them out a little bit. Make it a little bit easier for yourself. Now, since this is the same size, you can just come in a little bit, draw your first one, make sure it goes all the way up and down, and then slide over a little bit, draw your next one all the way up and down. What I like to do then is space it out a little bit more in case you decide to put any creatures or anything else back there. And then I'm going to slide it down a little bit more. Do another one. And another one. And then I like to see how close I am over here. So then I start on this side and I just come in a little bit. That way I don't run out of room. And I'm going to leave it that way, because if I try to squish a little one in there, it's just not going to work. Now I'm going to add my keyhole. So I draw a circle with a triangle, and then I can just color that in. And then I'm going to add some flooring. Remember, I don't want to go across the bars, so I'm going to stop every time I hit a bar. This is when having your bars a little bit bigger is extremely useful. So now I have my floor, I have everything else. Now you have to figure out, okay, what happened here? So let's say there was a breakout. If somebody is breaking out of the jail cell, then it's going to kind of follow a brick pattern. And a brick pattern, you know, bricks are kind of like our flooring pattern where they don't line up. So if something breaks, let me use red here, if somebody breaks out, they're going to follow kind of this shape here, where they're following the mortar joint instead of going into a complete circle like they had a big drill. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to do an L. And then I just do another L, and then another L, another L, and there I'm out. But I want to make it look like it is thick. So I'm going to draw a line and go back, 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 draw a line. This way now you can see outside. So maybe there's, you know, maybe you can see like the prison fencing or a helicopter lifting off and someone escaping. Maybe somebody did zap a hole in the middle of the ceiling. So we can do an oval for the ceiling, and then you have to think of this being up in the sky. So sky, and you want to do a smile. So sky, smile, draw a smile, and then that way it looks like you can see out. Now I'm going to drop a rope in here, so I'm going to do a frown, and then I'm going to have the rope kind of come down so it looks like somebody was in on that escape attempt. So then they can get out that way. You can also do other things like security cameras. You could do maybe laser beams, like a laser grid where they have to get through, or you know, maybe you drop this floor and you add something cool. So to drop the floor, you draw a line down and a line down. So from the corners, we're just drawing that line down, and then I take my tracer, I line it up so it's nice and straight. Now the nice thing is you already know the diagonal that you have to use. You come here and you just push it until you hit the corner and draw. And then we come over here, push it down until you hit the corner, draw that out, and then maybe I'm going to put in some sharks swimming around, and maybe it's lava, so I'm going to do some bubbles, some heat bubbles. Maybe I'll do some heat lines coming up, and so there's lava sharks floating around in front of this jail cell trying to keep somebody in. So then you have to think to yourself, okay, what kind of creature am I going to put in here that needs lava sharks protecting it and keeping it inside that cage? You could also do stuff where you bend the bars or make other holes, or you know, how many days or years they've been in there. You can make some marks and stuff like that on the walls too. So you can really go to town with the amount of stuff that's in there. The next thing that we're going to do is the barn. So to do a barn, I am going to set this right here. I am going to trace out, you got it, my tracer, and then I'm going to go to my corners, and then I'm going to go to my corners. I'm going to go to my corners, and then I am going to go to my corners. Now, once I have my corners and corners and corners, I have to think of, okay, how am I going to have this barn open? So I'm going to have the doors slide open, just like regular barn doors. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom and go off to the side. And I'm going to go off to the side. And I'm going to go off to the side. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Up on top is where I'm going to put my hayloft. So I'm going to bring my tracer up. I'm going to trace right around it, and then I'm going to give it a design kind of like an X so that it looks like it has some cross bracing. That design there, I'm going to split it, and I'm going to use half here and half here just to keep it consistent. So I'm going to come in from the bottom to the middle, and then I'm going to go up, and then I just come inside and I just make it into a bubble letter. So once again, I come up and up, up and up, and then we need some type of land out there. Around us we have the rolling hills, so I'm going to do some rolling hills, and then I'm going to have a road that comes up. So my road needs to hit here and here, but way back here it's got to be teeny tiny, so I'm going to have it come from the hill and just kind of curve up and in. So I'm going to have it come way back here, have it get bigger and bigger and bigger, so it looks like you've been driving that way. You could do other things inside here, silos and hay bales and a whole bunch of other stuff. The next thing I'm going to do is show you two more. One is the elevator. So with the elevator, We put our tracer right in the middle. We trace around. We trace around. And then you got it. We go corners to corners. I take my corners and I go right to my corners. My corners are going to go right to my corners. And then I'm going to go my corners to my corners. Once I have my corners and corners in, then I'm going to do my elevator doors. So I'm going to have the elevator look like it's kind of open. And then I need my elevator floor. This way then I can put some creatures hiding behind the elevator doors. Maybe they're getting ready to come out, or maybe they're trying to leave. And now I'm going to do some holes. So holes on the ground are ovals. Holes on the ceiling are also ovals because you're looking across them. Now ground, think of a frown. So ground, frown. That will let you sit down there. Sky, smile. This way then they look a little bit more realistic. Holes on the walls are circles. And then we do a little bit of a smile, a little bit of a smile. Like even if this whole thing was going to be made out of like Swiss cheese and you were doing smaller circles inside of here, you can go ahead and once again, still smiles, still small. If there were other holes on the ground, once again, they would be ovals. But because it's on the ground, it gets a frown. Once again, ground, frown, sky, smile, sky, smile. Now, if you wanted to make it like, say, like a gerbil enclosure and they were climbing all over the place, you know, you could connect these together. You can bring these in so then it looks like those tubes that the gerbils have, and maybe that's how they get around. Or maybe there's slides coming through there. So there's a lot you can do with your corner of the room this way. Now, the last one that I wanted to show you is probably the hardest one. This one is called the door, or the closing door, or the opening door, however you want to think of that. So I trace this out. I go my corners to my corners, and I take my corners to my corners, and I take my corners to my corners. Something you've heard me say a whole bunch of times already, and that's why we'll make this one our last one. So I go to my corners to my corners. There we are. Now, to have the door swinging out towards you, if you think of this as the door, it's going to be coming out. We need this little rectangular piece. The problem is this piece has to be below the line and above the line because it's coming towards you. It's going to look like it's closer to you. Sometimes we call that foreshortening, where sometimes you have to make things look like they're bigger, or sometimes you have to make things look like they're shrinking. The whole trick here is just to use a skinny rectangle. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to try to just make sure that they're lined up. And I'm just going to pull this line right towards me. And then I'm going to start over here and I'm going to pull this one all the way down towards me. That way then I have my line, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to connect to the hinge, and I connect to the hinge. Now that I have that, I can add my doorknob, I can add my keyhole, I can add my ground line, and then I can start adding other things inside my door. So then this way you have your door that opens. Remember, you could have it, once again, you know, you can have a hallway coming down this way like you came to the door, or you could have like a window here where you looked at it, where you drew your lines, and then you went to your corner. And then you went to your corner. Whoops, go to your corner. And then bring that in there. You could even do holes, you could do other things. So what I would like you to really try to do is add some details to your picture. So once you have it drawn out, go back in, add details. You know, if it's lava, you know, put in a hot lava sign, or do things outside. You know, here's a great one with the elevator where we have different creatures like interacting in the picture. Another jail cell one. Here's a door that's opened and there's some spikes, and some of the spikes were chewed on, maybe by the puppy dog, and there's some other holes and stuff in there. You know, same thing with your barn. Maybe there's trees out there, maybe there's other stuff around there. So take your time, do a great job with this. Remember, start off in the middle and then take your corners to your corners, and you won't have a problem with this. Have a great day. Can't wait to see what you make.